Okay, hey folks, greetings, my fellow freedom solving thinkers. This is LO3's newest podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy mangroves of South Florida, and today's date is March 15th, 2017, on a Wednesday to be exact. And I do hear myself. It's pretty interesting, but yeah, so I'm just gonna be just fly through some, four articles and give you my typical traditional viewpoint and all that. However, I am transmitting at CJ's Java Lounge, located at 400 Southwest First Avenue, or along the New River, which is Southwest New River Drive, Suite 1, in the heart of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, right near the Andrews Avenue Bridge in the southwest corner of it. All right, so come on here, check it out. Mom and Pa, got some good folks here, family run, and got some good kids out here at times as well. People come out of the woodworks, and even if you can't stand going on St. Patrick's Day, like during the daytime, come in a little bit less crowded. That's one thing I tell everyone. Hey, I'm supporting mom and pop places the best I can. Avoid all those corporate coffee shops. Come here. There's a few others, but this is one that I go to. And they always let me do my show, which is fantastic. And I do thank them for that sincerely, with all sincerity. So, yeah. And so enough of the goose chase here. It's going to go from motherboard.com. And this one here is entitled, "The CIA Can Now Order Drone Strikes Without Pentagon Approval." It is by Ben Sullivan. It actually came out yesterday. So let's see what it has to say. As it reads, Trump is widening the CIA's remit to target killing. Last November, Motherboard asked how President Trump would handle the legacy of his predecessor's drone program. Much was unclear, but 4 months later, we have our answer. America's remote killing strategy is only intensifying. Trump has given unprecedented power to the CIA to expand its killing program and launch drone strikes against targets. Drone strikes that have no legal obligation for public disclosure and do not require the approval of the Pentagon. Dan Gentinger, co-director at the Center for Study of the Drone at Bard College, told Motherboard in an email that Trump's decision repeals a central restriction placed on targeted killing program by the Obama administration. It's a distinct change to Obama's policies, which allow the CIA to hunt and surveil suspected terror targets, but require the permission of the military to physically launch a missile strike. Wall Street Journal reports that Trump has given the CIA authority to pull the trigger on its own strikes. This decision came shortly after the inauguration and has already been used in a strike against Al-Qaeda deputy Abu al-Qaeda al-Mazri in February, their newspaper reports. Although the CIA never abandoned its role in drone strikes, the agency will now have greater freedom to carry out out strikes on its own. Gettinger said, in the coming months, we are likely to see further redefinition of the target killing program by the Trump administration. The unnamed U.S. official speaking to the journal said that the new authority the CIA possesses can only be used for operations in Syria, but there are fears the CIA could easily expand its remit to outside of the country. Obama's decision to allow military to preside over the final call on drone strikes rather than the CIA promoted heightening transparency and public disclosure on America's drone operations. The CIA can now kill at will, unaffected by the need for public disclosure. The revelation comes as U.S. officials admit the Trump administration has almost put the finishing touches on a drone strike review that lowers the threshold on acceptable civilian casualties injured or killed in a drone strike, according to the Washington Post. The review goes back on policies Obama introduced and could give the Pentagon permission to launch its own strikes without the approval from the White House. It's previously unclear how Trump would wage his war against terror, but it is now obvious that the drone strike complex initiated by Bush, propelled by Obama, and now inherited by Trump continues to expand along same trajectory. Update: the story has been updated with comment from Dan Gendinger. Okay, where is that? Doesn't really say it in here, but always gotta see how accurate they really are. Honest. And don't get me wrong, there's been even reports on these drone strikes from other sources, including Kurt Nemo and so forth, 21st Century Wire. I can say that respectfully. I could be mistaken, but I remember reading some of that stuff in here on that, and this is pretty absolutely treacherous if this is the case, because you gotta stop being imperialistic for one. I believe really President Trump should read Blowback by Chalmers Johansson. Ron Paul is a really good lecturer on that, because he always talk about blowback. They call him the nut job with the tinfoil hat, but not anymore. If President Trump is making this clear that the CIA can use drone strikes without Pentagon approval, military approval, his ass will be on a big bind. This is something that everyone should be talking about. Okay? Not this garbage that's going on with Russia. To me, it's just blowing smoke up your anuses. All right? That's what I call it, a distraction. And they're talking about the healthcare thing. Okay? A lot of us knows. I'm pretty damn convinced. Haven't read the actual bill, and I should do that as soon as possible. And about many people are saying they're not impressed by it. It should have repealed ACA, period, as far as I'm concerned. But you're going to replace it with something else. That's the same thing, same crap, different package. Wasted energy. But the whole thing is with this, it's not too pretty. And it could backfire on innocent people in the United States or within the country, within the other countries. And what's going to happen? You're going to blame the other person? No, we got to really have to look how deep this rabbit hole can go. And we know for a fact right now a lot of stuff has been released by CIA. Okay, I'm cool with attempts and all that. So far as I'm concerned, their credibility is shot in hell in the handbasket. Including the Volt 7 thing as well. So, you keep on doing the homework on this, and I will tell everyone, if you're a Trump supporter or not, get out of these drone strikes. It's completely unacceptable, and condemn it. I condemn this with a passion. All right, so enough of that. Next one here from courthousenews.com came out yesterday as well by Nicholas Alvino. FBI need not to tell how it snoops on journalists. This is from in San Francisco. Federal judge ruled Monday that the Department of Justice may withhold records on its rules to spy on journalists without a warrant. The Freedom of the Press Foundation sued the Department of Justice in 2015, claiming it failed to disclose Freedom of Information Act requested documents on guidelines for its warrantless surveillance of journalists. The records were sought by the Associated Press, revealed in 2013 that the Department of Justice seized 2 months of at least 7 journalists' phone records to try to find the source of a leak about a foiled terror plot. During a hearing in August 2016, a press advocate attorney accused the government of purposely hiding records to cover up its failure to bolster press protections as it promised after the public criticism mounted over a seizure of journalists' phone data. The press advocate said that the government's failure to identify a document called NXG proved its search for requested records was inadequate. NXG of the FBI's 2013 Domestic Investigations and Operations Guide was published by The Intercept in June 2016. The file revealed that FBI agents can seize journalists' phone records with approval from 2 internal officials. The FBI's General Counsel and Executive Assistant Director of the FBI's National Security Branch. If the purpose of the investigation is to identify a confidential news source, the Assistant Attorney General for the Justice Department's National Security Branch must also be consulted prior to approval according to the leaked document. In his Monday ruling, U.S. District Judge Haywood Gilliam found the FBI's failure to include NXG in its list of responsive documents did not automatically render its search for records inadequate. While the FBI search may not have been perfect, plaintiff was entitled to a reasonable search for records, not a perfect one, Gilliam wrote, citing the Ninth Circuit's 2015 ruling of Hamden versus the U.S. Department of Justice. Gilliam said he had no reason to doubt an FBI's official sworn declaration that the Bureau conducted a far more targeted search in various FBI divisions over a broader period of time than was requested by the press advocates. Gilliam also found that the government properly invoked exemptions to justify shielding certain files from disclosure. The withheld files include a policy implementation guide, domestic operations guide, internal emails, draft media guidelines, and a PowerPoint presentation on the use of national security letters. The FBI agents use national security letters to get banks, telecom companies, libraries, and others to secretly hand over information without a warrant. The use of national security letters was once ruled unconstitutional, but the ruling was stayed and then reversed after a judge found Congress inadequately addressed the constitutional problem, passing the USA Freedom Act of 2015. You mean the Unfreedom Act. In July 2013, the Department of Justice released guidelines that bar the government from issuing subpoenas to journalists unless high standards are met. But those guidelines did not apply to FBI agents who use national security letters to obtain data from companies and institutions without court oversight. Gilliam accepted the FBI's assertion that the PowerPoint presentation on the use of national security letters contained legal advice to FBI employees and therefore qualified for an exemption as attorney-client privilege information. Gilliam also found that draft versions of policy manuals and media guidelines and emails discussing those policies fell within deliberative process exemption intended to protect full and frank internal debates about policy changes. The judge also found that revealing the FBI's intelligence gathering methods and sources, which were detailed in 7 pages of its domestic operation guides, will cause serious harm to national security. Gilliam declined to review the disputed files behind closed doors, finding the camera review should be a last resort in national security cases, and that it is not necessary in this case due to detailed declarations filed by the FBI. He granted summary judgment to the Department of Justice and denied it to the Freedom of the Press Foundation. The Department of Justice spokeswoman Nicole Navis declined comment. Freedom of the Press Foundation Executive Director Trevor Tim sent in an email, "It's an extremely disappointing decision. Whether it's the Obama administration or the Trump administration, the government should not be able to keep its rules for spying on journalists without a court order secret. It is antithetical to a democracy that supposedly values a free press. We are evaluating our options and will announce whether we will appeal the case soon." That's right. So hopefully that will be done because this is completely unacceptable. Remember, J. Edgar Hoover was very fascinated with the Nazi Germany on how they collect information. So it's like the same pattern, same crap, different package. J. Edgar Hoover is climaxing in his grave. Okay, he loves this stuff. So it is very disturbing, but you have to march on, and don't worry, it will be exposed real soon. I'm expecting something to really occur that's going to drive the Federal Bureau of Investigations crazy as well. So, look, man, it's not the 30s and 40s anymore, my friends. This is the new century, and people are learning a lot now on technology, and I mean, this is a big information war that is going to be potholes, okay? Even though a lot of us believe we are whipping their behinds, but you always expect these downfalls or potholes. So I give the Freedom of the Press Foundation, hey, man, got the guts to do it. I say pursue it. You have the merits, do it. And then once you just look up the Freedom of the Press Foundation and support these guys, all right? So That is all in that area. So next one here. Technocracy News came out yesterday as well. Can your smart home be used against you in court? Written by Brian Heater. The short answer is yes. While suspects enjoy lawyer client and husband wife privileges regarding confidentiality, there apparently is no such expectation for an inanimate object that you own, and even those placed in your home without your knowledge or consent. This is hardly constitutional, but nobody has risen to challenge it in court. In November 2015 morning in Bentonville, Arkansas, that's the place where the Walmart one of the Walmart main headquarters is, believe it or not. First responders discovered a corpse floating in a hot tub. The home's resident, James Andrew Bates, told authorities he found the body of Victor Collins dead that morning. He'd be gone to bed at 1 a.m. while Collins and another friend stayed up drinking. This past December, the information reported that authorities had subpoenaed Amazon over the case. The police were considered Bates a suspect in what they suspected that was a murder. After signs of a struggle were found at the scene, they hoped his echo might hold some insights into what happened the night before. Amazon initially pushed back against the request, citing First Amendment protections, and ultimately conceded when Bates agreed to allow the information to be handed over to the police. While Amazon's fight has been rendered moot, this case lays groundwork for some tough and important conversations to come, raising a slew of fascinating questions around the technologies. What do devices like Echo or Google Home actually record and save? Have we, as consumers, effectively surrendered a reasonable right to privacy from corporations and the government by bringing such devices into our home? It's like this perfect test case, says Andrew Ferguson, a professor of law at the University of District of Columbia. Alexia is only one of the smart devices in that guy's home. I don't know if all of them were on recording, but if you were going to set up a hypothetical situation to decide if the Internet of Things could be used as investigative tools, you got this mysterious hot tub murder. The question of how much privacy we can reasonably expect when installing a home assistant is complex and unresolved. In a sense, people who buy an Echo or a home know what they're getting themselves into for the very basic fact that they purchased an internet-connected device with built-in microphones that is designed, in some sense, to always be listening. And it's created by companies that thrive on tailoring ads based on boatloads of data they collected from users. Still, constant recording and storage is another question entirely. Home assistants are designed to have an ear open at all times, monitoring their surroundings for the keyword like Alexa, Google, or Siri. But once a user consents by introducing such a device into their home, are its manufacturers bound by law to record and store information their products are designed to act upon, or has consumers effectively waived those rights? As the legal matter is unresolved, in which parts of what worries us about the whole thing, ACLU senior analyst Jay Stanley tells TechCrunch. I think most people don't expect the snippets of the conversation might accidentally get picked up. Smart assistants to hear trigger words or when trigger words are not intended. Even with the best intentions, such devices leave open the possibility of collecting unintended information, courtesy of advanced recording technologies capable of firing up from across the room. Stanley covered the topic recently in an article penned for the ACU that was inspired when he encountered an Echo at a friend's dinner party. The group's conversation became self-conscious as we began joking about the Echo listening in. Joking or not, in short order, our host walked over and unplugged it, he writes. It is exactly this kind of self-conscious and chilling effect that surveillance, or even the most remote threat of surveillance, casts over otherwise freewheeling private conversations, and is the reason people need ironclad assurance that the device cannot betray them. It is a familiar feeling, surely, to anyone who's ever covered a webcam with electrical tape for fear of Snoopy. I would push back against the legal argument, said categorically, that users don't have reasonable expectations for privacy when they've installed one of these devices in their home, says Electronic Frontier Foundation Senior Staff Attorney and Civil Liberties Director David Green. You're trusting a third party to assert your rights to notify when your information is being sought. To me, those things are independent of your reasonable expectation of privacy. There only seems to be lingering legal questions regarding disclosure. It is not entirely clear whether companies are legally bound to notify users about the manner of information they gathered or how they ultimately act upon it. Some will touch upon the idea in the publicly available privacy policies, which, like TOS and AULA, are rarely given a second thought by most users, but while welcome, don't seem to be a legal obligation. It's pretty much Wild Wild West, explained Stanley. I can't think any legal requirements that would force them to disclose what they're recording. It could be enter or let the buyer beware. So actually, that's like, let me just check this out here. Yeah, TechCrunch, of course, put this out. And so you gotta really expect all this to be a lot more than what it is. And it's a pretty good long article, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. However, yeah, man, you gotta really be cautious in what you purchase and all that with these things, and you have to look at everything across the board. So, ooh, prepare yourselves. Don't take these things for granted. Learn everything about it before you buy it. That's my main concern. All right. Finally, this came out yesterday as well by the 10th Amendment Center. J.P. Cortez, Idaho House passes bill to support sound money, undermine the Federal Reserve monopoly. And it says here today the Idaho House passed a bill that would eliminate state capital gains tax on gold and silver specie and encourage it uses as currency. Final approval legislation will undermine the Federal Reserve's monopoly on money. House Majority Leader Michael Mile introduced the bill, House Bill 206, on February 23rd. The legislation would amend Idaho revenue statutes, providing the capital gains and losses on precious metals, bullions, and monetized bullion sales be added or to subtracted from Idaho taxable income. Nice. The House approved H206 by 56-53 margin. According to the U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 10, there is only one thing that a state can declare as currency if they think that our current federal currency is going to go out of whack. Some might argue they think our federal currency is going to go out of whack already. Representative Rob Nate said in support of the bill from the House floor. Framers of our nations established that gold and silver are money, but federal taxing authorities in recent decades have required taxpayers to pay taxes on this form of money when it exchanges for Federal Reserve notes, result in nominal capital gains. Similar to a bill recently passed by Arizona State House, Idaho H206 is a revenue-neutral proposal over the long run. That's because both precious metals gains, income, and losses are backed out by the calculation of taxable income for Idahoans. While H206 passage will have little fiscal impact on Idaho tax revenues, it will have a larger impact on Idahoans' freedoms. Enjoy the backing of the Sound Money Defense League, the Idaho Freedom Foundation, and the Money Metals Exchange, the Idaho-based national precious metals dealer. The Idaho proposal seeks to correct the misclassification of precious metals by the IRS as property rather than money. It is only because of this misclassification in the first place that the precious metals income and losses are included in the federal adjusted gross income number that flows through the taxpayer's Idaho tax return. Ooh, sorry about that. Assessing income taxes on the exchange of money is unjust. Income taxes are one major way government bureaucrats penalize holders of precious metals. If you own gold to protect against the ongoing devaluation of America's paper currency, which results from the inflationary practices of the Federal Reserve, you may end up with gain on your gold or when it's priced in dollars. Not necessarily a real gain, mind you. It's frequently nothing more than a nominal gain. But it's nonetheless considered income against which government assesses a tax. The Federal Reserve strives on, on and openly announces as target inflation rate, and it's these policies that cause these artificial gains, which precious metals owners experience. By removing precious metals from the state income tax, Idaho can stop compounding the problem and instead help promote the adoption and widespread use of constitutional money. While Idaho citizens are not currently subjected to the double taxation in the form of sales taxes, more than 220 other states do. In most states with sales taxes, precious metal owners are taxed on the original purchase and then taxed again if they have nominal gains when they sell their precious metals. That's not all. All federal level, these dollars denominated gains on precious metals are taxed at discriminatorily high 28% long-term capital gains tax rate. Capital gains on the other assets are taxed at 15 or 20%, depending on one's income level. And unless a state passes a bill like one under consideration in Idaho, the income one receives from owning and selling gold and silver increases the taxes they must pay at the state level too. Passage into law would mark an important step toward currency competition. If sound money gains a foothold in the marketplace against the Federal Reserve notes, the people will be able to choose the time-tested ability of gold and silver over central banks' rapidly depreciating paper currency. Freedom of choice expanded by H206 will allow Idaho residents to secure the purchasing power of their money. This isn't going to end the Fed's monetary monopoly overnight, but it sets the foundation and opens doors for more market activity by the people. 10th Amendment Executive Director Michael Bolden said, "It is an important part of the overall strategy, and activists in Idaho should continue working to get this bill passed." Background information: currently, all debts and taxes in Idaho must be paid with either Federal Reserve notes, authorized as legal tender by Congress, or with coins issued by the U.S. Treasury. Very few which have gold or silver in them. But in the Constitution, Article 1, Section 10, no state shall make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. The Idaho bill take a step towards the constitutional requirement ignored for decades in every state. Such a tactic would undermine the monopoly or the Federal Reserve by introducing competition into the monetary system. Professor William Green is an expert on constitutional tender and said when people in multiple states start using gold and silver instead of Federal Reserve notes, it would effectively nullify the Federal Reserve and end federal government's monopoly on money. Over time, as residents of the state use both Federal Reserve notes and gold and silver and gold coins, the fact that the coins hold their value for more than Federal Reserve notes will lead to a reverse Grazium law effect, where good money, gold and silver coins, will drive out bad money, Federal Reserve notes. As this happens, a cascade of events can begin to occur, including the flow of real wealth towards the state's treasury and influx of banking business from outside the state. As people and others states carry out their desire to bank with sound money, and eventually cry out against the Federal Reserve notes for any transactions. Once things get to that point, Federal Reserve notes would become largely unwanted and irrelevant for the ordinary people. Nullifying the Fed by the state level is what that will get us there. Up next, H206 now moves to the Senate for further consideration. At the time of this report, it hadn't received a commitment assignment. Well, all I have to say, the people in Idaho should actually push for this. This is essential, not just for the great state of Idaho, but for the United States Republic as a whole. And this is a fantastic move. I've been keeping tabs on these things, and I got to give these folks a thumbs up for making this soon reality. May not be perfect, but it's a hell of a lot better than what we have right now. So give them a thumbs up on that, my friends, and a nice round of applause in good faith, right? Exactly. Well, yeah, I cannot really complain about this by any means, all right? So we got to start really making it affect every state within this union. And you know what? In a period of time, we'll be a lot more prosperous, and we have real or sound money, which is constitutionally guaranteed. Nothing else. And that is all for now. Thanks for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or you want to send me something that's interesting I may want to check out, whatever you do, please send your correspondences with decorum. You can hit me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Breaker, iHeartRadio, Tumblr, YouTube, Freedoms Network, Scene.life, or Minds.com. In addition, you can email me at LokiLuck3, which is LokiLuck3 at gmail.com. I was going to say other email addresses may be coming soon. For those are pretty interested in encryptions, okay? I'm going to try and make it happen, but it will be, you will get it notified. It will be announced, all right? Just saying too many things at one time. All right, my friends, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that the demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love. And may your guardian spirits be with you.